Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Schola Gladiatoria of course, and here we're talking about training weapons potentially for kids in HEMA. So one of the big issues that we have in HEMA is we're training with weapons, and that makes getting kids involved really difficult. Generally speaking, in my classes I don't take anyone under the age of 16. I just can't because of insurance reasons. Also, generally speaking, I mean, I have an adult class that's full anyway, and I don't really have the capacity to run a kids class as well anyway at the moment. But I do completely recognise that one of the secrets to any martial arts success and future is getting people involved early in life. And so to the people out there who are teaching kids classes in HEMA, like, massive kudos to you, well done, and that's what needs to happen for historical fencing to grow, is really to get kids involved early on. This is how sports fencing and judo and karate and all of those kind of things have kind of grown and built themselves. But as mentioned, it's kind of difficult with HEMA when we're dealing with weapons, even blunt, safe weapons, even with the nylon weapons we use. You know, a nylon weapon, if it's like a night shot Rawlings line waster, and definitely if it's one of the black fencer ones, can easily still badly injure someone if people aren't sensible and, you know, aren't wearing the right protective gear and all that kind of stuff. So in order to get kids involved in HEMA, one approach is to get them involved with sport fencing training equipment. But there are some issues there. I certainly think, I mean, I always advise to people, if they can't get involved with a HEMA class straight off and they're under 16 or under 18, depending on the club, then really, you know, sport fencing is an absolutely fantastic basis for pretty much any kind of weapon-based martial arts that will come after that. There might be other things you can do in your local area, such as Filipino martial arts, this kind of thing. But some people are looking at things that can be used for training kids. And one person is John Jakelski, I hope I've pronounced your name correctly, who is training a club in Spain. He has some kids that he's training to do saber. And he has developed these training weapons. Now, they are, you know, he's obviously, this is an ongoing development, and yes, they do absolutely look like boffers. Which one shall I do? I'm demonstrating the blue one. Obviously, they could come in different colours, but there is actually some. It's not just a piece of, I guess, pipe insulation. There is a little bit more to it than that, and I have to say that they actually handle pretty damn well. Are they light? Yes, they are light, okay? But they move somewhat similarly to this. There's a gymnasium saber from around 1905, and they actually move quite similar to an early 20th century military gymnasium saber. Yes, this is heavier, but not massively so. I mean, these are light, but they're not, you know, they're not like ridiculously light. They are a similar weight to a LARP sword, it has to be said. There are a few issues with LARP weapons, okay? So some people might just go, why not use LARP weapons? Well, first of all, that's not a terrible idea. I mean, they're commercially available. Absolutely, you could get LARP weapons. But one of the main problems, or there are two main problems with LARP weapons, is number one is the thrust, okay? You want something that's safe to thrust with. I don't really believe that you can train most styles of historical swordsmanship if you don't include thrusts. There may be some exceptions. There may be, you could say, some styles of single stick didn't necessarily use thrusts. And indeed, you know, as Waite and Hutton point out, if you don't have sufficient protection and you're using sabres, practice sabres that is, don't thrust with them because it's not safe. So you could just ignore the thrusts. However, it is good to be able to thrust, and you can teach a lot more stuff, a lot more swordsmanship if you're able to thrust safely. And these do thrust pretty damn safely. So essentially, you've got a form of stick up the centre. I can't actually tell what type of wood it is, but it looks like it might be. Yeah, it might be bamboo, but I'm not entirely sure. But you've got some kind of stick up the centre. You've got a, I'll bring it closer to the camera for you. Here we go. There we go. You've got a rubberized grip There's a bit of tape. I've got to say, I think that could be done in a bit more of a professional way, but there we go. These are, you know, they're not being made by factory. Plastic guard with a nice rim around the edge, so there's nothing rough or sharp there to hurt any kids. And then, yes, this is indeed, as far as I can tell, pipe insulation, but importantly, it's not just foam. It then has clear tape put over the top of it. Now, this is very much a homemade thing, isn't it? We're not, and I have to say also, just while I remember, this is kind of glued down with kind of, it looks like a hot glue gun type glue at the base. But they are pretty damn well made, and I've been practicing with these, both with Lucy, my wife, and also with my little girl, and they are safe. You can hit pretty damn hard with them. With this, I'm sure that's going to be turned into another GIF or GIF, depending how nerdy you are. But yeah, look, I'm fine. You know, it doesn't hurt. And they're really safe impact, and they're really strong. We've used these quite tough, you know, quite brutally, and nothing so far has come apart or come loose or anything like that on them. They're pretty tough things. They're also, I have to say, so they're adult size. So this is about the same size as I would want from an adult saber. So in other words, it's too long for most kids. But obviously you can downsize it to whatever age or size of kids you're working with. And you can, I mean, even people who, even adults who were complete beginners at military saber, you could teach them quite a lot of the basic stuff with this type of training tool. It handles pretty well. It balances, look, balances in the right place. So they are light. I haven't actually weighed them, to be honest, but I guessed that they're about 500 grams. They balance in the correct place for an infantry officer's saber. They're the right kind of size and shape and all of that kind of stuff. The grip's nice. It's slightly flat on the back, which is good for the thumb up. It's not round. Or it's a bit round, but it's quite flat where the thumb goes. And they're safe in the thrust and they're safe in the hit. So there we go. I think John Jakelski and he's done a really, really good job. I put a link below this to if you want to talk to John about whatever about these weapons. And you know, I think this is the sort of thing that we need to be developing and we need to be looking at if we want to get kids into HEMA. And I think that we need to get kids into HEMA in the long run. I'm not saying that I necessarily want to run kids classes, because I'm not sure that I'm cut out for that. I think you have to be a certain type of person to teach kids, and probably a slightly different type of person to teach adults. And I am already teaching all the classes that I want to teach. But I do think absolutely looking at a bigger kind of picture that we absolutely need to get kids involved in HEMA, absolutely, for it to grow. And I think these are a really good, I won't say first attempt because that sounds patronising, but they're definitely moving in the right direction for the sort of thing that we need to have produced for us, and ultimately they'd have to be commercially produced to be, you know, affordable and all that kind of stuff. But the kind of thing. Just going to briefly mention that there are some boffers. I know some people would hate the word boffers, but who cares? There are some kind of HEMA boffer weapons out there. For example, Spez make some, or at least sell some. I don't know if they make them. And you can indeed get these, particularly saber, but you can also get longsword and arming sword boffers. They have strengths and weaknesses. The ones that I'm aware of have a fabric covering. And they're quite floppy. I actually prefer this because these are stiffer. Having said that, the ones that you can buy from Spez, I believe it is, are heavier. So maybe they need to be floppier in order to not hurt people too much. I don't know. But I do quite like the idea of the plastic covering. It does give a slippy, slidey sort of contact on the blade. Oh, I've just realised when I was mentioning LARP weapons, the main disadvantage is the thrust. The other one is the stickiness of the latex blades. I do know that you can get silicone spray or such like to make the blades more slippy, which makes them nicer, which is fine. So that point's not really important. The most important thing, the most important problem, I think, with LARP weapons is making them thrust safe. Although I have to say, if you're using fencing masks, which you should be absolutely definitely with kids, then maybe that's not such an issue. I'm not sure. One of the problems with LARP, of course, is that people can't wear fencing masks because they're role-playing. So it's very difficult to make weapons thrust safe. Anyway, there we go. Thank you very, very much to John Jakielski. I think these are really good. They're really fun. They're really nice to use. They move like sabers. You can learn and teach basic saber repertoire with them. And keep up the work. Let us know where this goes, where this takes you, what experiences you have, whether these are going to be produced and commercially available and things like that. But thank you very much for sending them. Sorry it's taken, these came around Christmas time. Sorry it's taken so long for me to get around to actually reviewing them. But for people out there, even if you're making your own stuff, maybe this gives you some your own ideas. Maybe you can't afford to buy your first training weapon, but you can buy constituent parts to make something at home that you can train with, and maybe start a bit of, you know, light contact sparring with your friends and this kind of stuff. Thanks for watching. Cheers, folks. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We have extra videos on Patreon, and you can follow us on Facebook.